Hello and welcome to the Free Cheese, episode 580. I'm your Joe Dix, joined by Matt Sellner.
Hello.
The Free Cheese is a weekly video game podcast about video games, brought to you once a week by thefreecheese.com. Every week on the Free Cheese, we play a game. One specific game. We come together, we talk about that game and our time spent with it, and then we rank it on a list that we call The List. You can find that over at thefreecheese.com/the list. This week, as the title implies, we are covering Resident Evil Code Veronica X. Matt, what's your favorite setting for horror?
Oh, I don't know. Dare I say, like Haunted Mansion. Just because of the video game we are playing.
Yeah, but I think even outside of that one, a mansion is just a good space for spooky things to happen, right?
And a mansion, you can have different microcosms of the areas within it because of the area, like the property itself can lend a hand. Like how crazy did the property get on the NES one we played?
Oh, and Sweet Home.
Yeah,
exactly. I think typically most mansions I've been to also have like underground labs and lairs, and there's hidden experiments, there's secret doors, haunted twins that look like Paris Hilton, but more on that as we talk more on Resident Evil Code Veronica X, developed by Capcom Production Studio 4, published by, you won't believe it, Capcom. First released in its non-X form on the Dreamcast in North America, March 28th, 2000. I'm going to read the back of the box from the Dreamcast version, even though we played X, which came out on PS2 and GameCube and later platforms. Everything you feared and more. After narrowly surviving the horrific onslaught in Raccoon City, Claire Redfield now seeks clues in search of her missing brother, Chris. The Umbrella Corporation memo read, Confidential, Phase 1, Raccoon City, test complete. Phase 2, Paris facility, fully operational. To her horror, she discovers Umbrella Corporation's insidious activities are not isolated to the remote Midwestern city. No, something much larger is going on here. Flesh-eating zombies, horrific beasts, and even stranger mutations have spread to a global scale. Just how far does this twisted conspiracy extend? What is Umbrella Corporation really up to? And who is behind this biotech terror? We aim to find out, Matthew, on this week's fine episode of the Free Cheese Podcast. This is our, fourth Resident Evil game on the list?
Oh, God, we have...
Yeah.
Shit, I forgot we played 4 twice.
Twice, and Gaiden for the Game Boy Color.
Yeah, 2 extremes of the franchise, for sure.
On the boat, man. Yeah. And now we don't really end up on a boat, per se, here, but we do end up in a plane,
submarine,
kind of.
Yeah. For a little bit. It's a cutscene.
Matt, you added Resident Evil Code Veronica X to the list this year. Why?
So, I had this... So, in my note, I think I said something else. But in my note, I had, like, same but different within a franchise. Like, essentially, like, a franchise that keeps reinventing itself. But I think, I don't have proof of this, but I remember conjecturally... at the time of this release, that this model of video game was getting stale, and it may have potentially almost killed this franchise because it needed to change big time. And I feel like at times Tetris does that to itself, more likely on a mobile platform.
There were some pretty bad Tetris games, like the PS1 Tetris was bad. Tetris kind of lost its way there in that era, for sure, before they kind of locked down the brand standards and got it to a point where it is now. So we have covered several Resident Evil games on the podcast. We played the 4 and 4 remake and Gaiden on Game Boy. But outside of those, what does your history look like with Resident Evil? What was your first? What was your most recent besides this one?
I mean, I've seen, before even playing 4, I had seen 1 through 3 playthrough at various points of my life, whether it's me watching someone play through it or whatever. I never play the games. I didn't play a Resident Evil game until I got my PlayStation 2 copy of Resident Evil 4. One fun Christmas morning. Also think I got Tony Hawk's Underground same Christmas.
It's a solid Christmas.
Jesus,
Pretty good.
What a time.
Yeah.
But yeah, play through Resident Evil 4, play through Resident Evil 5. No, actually, no, I take that back. I skipped 5 because it was a 360 and I didn't have a 360. And then I don't play Resident Evil 5 until much later. I don't even beat it on that playthrough. And then I played 6. And I didn't play 7, but I played 8 most recently. And so this is actually my first real time playing through like what I would call like a traditional Resident Evil game.
Yeah, the classic one. Yeah, I, like you, did not play 1 until 4. And I played the Wii version and loved it. That was the one I played when we did the coverage last year for those episodes. And after that, I spent time again on the Wii with like the Umbrella Chronicles. And
I played through that one.
Yeah. I didn't go back to any of the others until Resident Evil 1 hit. The GameCube remake got remade for PS4, remastered for PS4. And I played through a bit of that on my own, and then we did a bit of that on the website, which we never finished. But then from there, I went to, it wasn't until 2 in 2019 when we played that for Game of the Year stuff. Or 2018? I forget now. I think 19. Yeah. I played it then and really loved it, and then played the 3 remake when that came out. Did I go back at all? That might be it. I've like sampled I bought like before the 3DS eShop went down, and I bought a bunch of random stuff, and Capcom was really great about putting sales out. I bought the Revelations game where I think it's, what is that, Jill in Antarctica, or Jill's on a submarine, or I don't remember.
Is it Jill and Barry, or is it Barry in Revelations 2? I don't
know. I can't remember.
I think Jill's in 1. I bought that
for like $1, and yeah, that was played it for a Saturday night, had a good time with it, and then forgot about it. That's kind of it. And then yeah, I played after 2 and 3. I played 7, and then I played 8, and now I'm waiting on. Oh, and I did the 4 remake too last year. Obviously, we did that for the show. Now I'm kind of waiting to see what's next. I'm curious to see if it's a Code Veronica remake, or if it's 9, or if it's both. I don't know.
Zero remake's been floated out there too, right?
Yeah. I feel like the like wishful thinking from fans for so long has been like a Zero Code Veronica combination pack of some kind, where they kind of like remix both stories into one somehow. I don't know. I don't
even know how to even do that.
I think this is what happens when people just follow rumors blindly and they start to conflate into garbage. And here I am, forcing it forward as well. Code Veronica, you mentioned, was kind of the last one of the classic style, because this was technically the last one, like...
Where is Zero fall in the timeline? That's the only one I think that might come after. But I think, doesn't it have the revised non-tank controls? Traditional fixed
camera, but not
camera, but yeah.
So
and that game played a little bit weird too with the partner system.
Yeah. This one was first Dreamcast. They then ported it to PS2 and GameCube. And then that was ported to 360 and PlayStation 3, and those versions are still playable today through backwards compatibility.
So, the 360 and the PS3 version, which is the ones we played, right? You played the 360
Yeah, I played
version?
360, yeah.
So those are actually remasters. And then the port for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One is just a port, or just ports of like the PS2 version.
I see. Okay.
So yeah, like the remasters are kind of stuck on 360 and PS3. That's why I kind of told you to chase those down.
Yeah. Well, and they go in, again, sales from Capcom.
Oh, yeah.
All
the time.
What do you know about the development of Code Veronica? It's kind of background, history.
I know this was originally 3 until Sony butt in and said...
Oh, that was a Sony move. Tell me more about that.
I believe that Sony contractually had a numbered game left on their deal with Capcom, or another game, and they bullied Capcom into 3, or Capcom felt it was better to put 3 on PS1 because of stronger sales potentially. I don't remember which way it was, but that was the move. However, this was originally developed to be 3, which feels that way because it's a straight up continuation from after the events of Raccoon City, unlike 3 being pretty much a rehash, reusing some assets.
Yeah. 3 feels like 2.5, right?
Right.
Yeah. This feels, again, because you're also taking Chris from RE1 and Claire from RE2, and then you're putting them together in another game, and you're seeing both sides of the story.
And it's the continuation from 2, because the whole reason Claire is in Raccoon City for 2 is to find Chris.
Yeah, exactly. She's still looking for him when we start our journey here. So we start our journey with Claire showing up to Rockford Island looking for Chris. She then gets imprisoned by Umbrella.
Yep. Yeah.
But then she's meets what is our friend's name at the beginning that we have to bring the medicine to?
Oh, I don't remember. And I didn't write it down either.
It's not Steve. I know. I just knew.
Yeah, it doesn't. It just says man in the Wikipedia page I'm looking at.
Yeah, because he gives us our lighter. We later return the favor by bringing him drugs. And then Chris returns the favor much later on. Yeah. But the game, I mean, right off the bat, what was your first impression? You get control of Claire for the first time. You step into this world. What's your reaction?
Tank controls are back.
Yeah.
That's probably the initial reaction, but I mean, 2 screens later, like, kind of thrown into it, almost like RE4 style in a way. I mean, 4 had a little bit more leeway until all hell breaks loose in the village, but yeah, like a whole area of zombies immediately happens. You only have a knife, so yeah, it's a difficult start for sure. As you're getting acclimated to tank controls again, because it's probably been, I still think it's hard to maneuver with them if you have played with that system for a bit.
Do you feel like it got easier by the end of your time with the game? Because I certainly got used to it.
I felt more confident in my movement, but that doesn't mean I was better at it. There was definitely boss fights where I was iffy on how to maneuver the arena.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. Were there overall, how would you rate difficulty of the game?
I think it's hard. I think it's a hard game that forces you to use your saves smart. I don't know if you had any strategies with it. I mean, again, I've admitted time and time again on the show, I will loosely use walkthroughs when needed, because I don't have all the time in the world to spend running around. But what I would do, I would load, like, kind of when I got a save point and wasn't sure where to go, I would kind of go in a direction, explore, see what was around, see what surprises I had in store. And then if I was not in the right area, or I did not find an item that I thought was helpful, I would reload a save, reload that save, and then go the other way, instead of running all the way back. And I would
interesting.
I would use that as a scouting mission almost. Now, if I found the right thing, I would just keep playing. I wouldn't like come back and try to optimize the route. But if I went completely wrong way, I would just, instead of walking all the way back, I would just reload my save and just remember where the key items were and optimize that path and explore that way, or the other way.
I was generally kind of... I noticed this when I played 2, the remake of 2, that I really felt smart when I figured out puzzles. So I got in the habit of 2 with, like, jotting things down in a note of, like, picked up this key, picked up or found this thing, found this item, like, and in that and in this, you know, you can rotate those items and check every side of them and look to see if there's something hidden. So I got in the habit of, like, writing down, like, what did I find, whatever. I would basically, my general approach to this, because you're right, saving is, like, it's critical in this game. Thankfully, I found that the ink ribbons were not incredibly scarce. I never ran out. I never had a threat of that. I was okay.
I think I finished with, like, 10.
Yeah.
Some of them absurd.
Pretty plentiful. And the cool thing, too, with ink ribbons is there would be times where I would try and free up my pockets by dumping off ink ribbons, because I'm, like, in a space, I just saved, I'm good. And you'd get to by the time you get to the next save room, usually a save room will have more ink ribbons for you if you're entering it for the first time in this game. Otherwise, you're typically going to find at least, like, 1, if not, like, a 3-pack somewhere. So I was saving a new slot each time. And essentially what I would do is, like, I don't know, I'd go through, I'd feel like I'd hit the end of an area. Like, did I see everything? Like, I'm looking at the map, like, have I been there? Have I been there? Have I been there? And barring, like, any of the obvious I can't get there kind of places, if I felt confident, I would just do a sweep through a guide and just like, check what they said. Like, did I get all these things? And if I missed something, I'd backtrack and get it. And it wasn't the best approach, but it wasn't terrible. And we'll get to this later, but it sadly meant that I was collecting 100% of the items, but I might have also been overusing some percentage of those items. I think that's the other factor in the difficulty in this game. It's like, you really need to be careful of your resources. You're not supposed, and any guide will tell you, and I think anyone, like, who's played it will tell you, like, you're not meant to use or kill every enemy, right?
You're not supposed to mow down areas.
No. Resident Evil is never about that. And you remember that from how I played 1 when we did the Under My Umbrella series, which you can watch the archives of over on thefreecheese.com. But yeah, I didn't feel like I was doing that in this game, but I was often, and really the thing for me was handgun bullets. Everything else I was fine on. I had enough grenades and everything else throughout. What do you call them? The crossbow arrows or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It was just handgun bullets. I was, like, really scarce all the time. And I think that's where the difficulty comes in. The tank controls, it's not... I had a worse time with Fear Effect than I did Code Veronica.
Agreed. And I think it's because of the 3D models and the 3D environment.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, same.
Also, this is the first Resident Evil game with the 3D environment, by the way.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Right, because they all before would have been, like, fixed.
So some of those scenes where you see those pivots and stuff, that's brand new.
The power of the Dreamcast is really incredible, you know? That's the one thing I was bummed about playing the 360 version, is that I did not get to do the health meter in the VMU and the controller, but this was, I think, $6 on sale, and the original disc isn't that bad. I think like you can find it for around 30, which is I will probably buy this game at some point on Dreamcast. I think the thing for me with this game overall is it's the final game in that style of Resident Evil games, asterisk, but it's the sort of, it's butting up against so many limitations, right? Like games are ready to break out of this style. Games are ready for more. Games have already done more at this point too, but it's still doing it. And it's kind of just like honing the craft and doing it, I think, to its best, right? Like if you're going to make one of these, this is probably the best one you can make. My review, spoilers, I equate this to the Rondo of Blood of Resident Evil games. Like it's,
yeah.
If you're going to play one of those first core tank control classic style Resident Evil games, this is probably the one to play. Probably. But know all of those caveats, right? Like it is not an easy game. Be patient with it. Be patient with yourself and be ready to like replay stuff and spend time reloading saves, which was my downfall because I had all those save slots, but I never felt inclined to go back to any of them. I did it a couple times here and there, but you know, there were certain points where I reached a point where I was like, I should restart this entire game. You know what I mean? Like, and just go in fresh with, now I know what I know, let's do it again. So, what about you? How do you think the limitations build a complete game here?
I think it's getting, not that I think the environments are unique to the franchise. I mean, I think well, for obvious reasons, a lot of this resembles what the environments are doing in one. There's like a courtyard area that like would be like the military base in this game. There is a mansion. There is a matching mansion verbatim. You know, it makes them get creative in that regard. And the way they, and I like the way that they split the two characters up and how they revisited some of those environments and how they changed what they, you know, how they kind of blocked you off of areas you've revisited. But look at that. There's a hidden area over here that outfit reveals or, you know, or something like that. So, like, I think it's just playing with, you know, it's playing with the environments, you know, in that way.
You mentioned Alfred. Alfred and Alexia are our two, what end up being kind of the villains of this, but what did you think of them, Alexia and Alfred Ashford, I should say?
Well, I knew the twist going into this game, sadly.
Which twist?
Well, I guess I know both, but
yeah.
But the first one, the first
half twist and the second half twist. I see. Yeah.
I sadly knew both of them, but I loved Alfred. He is just the right amount of crazy. That makes sense in a Resident Evil game, and it's perfect.
Did you think you were going to fight a dolphin the first time you interacted with him? His laugh is like, so it just sounds like a haunted dolphin in the background of that mansion. Or wherever you first meet him, he's shooting at you, right? From inside the palace, I guess?
Yes, yeah. It's when you come back out into that, like that, I guess, foyer area. Yeah. And he's up on the balcony. No. Yeah, exactly. I love the voice acting. I think it's great. And he's fucking nuts.
Yes, 100%. And the thing, I mean, these stories always, like every single Resident Evil game, it's so, and I don't know why I'm surprised the more I play them, because they're all like this, but they all start sort of grounded, if you will. Like it's obviously a bizarre situation, or it's not a whatever. It's not within this reality yet, but they always go way crazy and weird, and it's always like way deeper and weirder. And I love that, like, at this point too, we just kind of keep stair stepping, like well, he created the first few games. It's like, well, the virus was created by, and then the virus was created by, and then that virus that influenced that virus. And by the time we get to this one, it's just like, well, the virus that created the virus that created the virus was actually created by these people who created the virus who created the virus.
I have a sentence in my in my review, and it's like I say I think this is the taken off point for how ridiculous the lore of RE has become, but that's what makes it fun. Like
yes.
Like 1, 2, and 3. At the end of the day, 1 is Escape a Mansion, that you find virus stuff and Umbrella's behind it, and Wesker betrayal, right?
Sure.
2 is kind of the same story but told in Raccoon City and throughout the police station, and again, Umbrella is. And then 3, this is why, like, you can definitely see this was supposed to be the original sequel. 3 is just like a side story to what's happening in 2, except, oh, look at that, more Umbrella, just a different character going through it. But this is like the first time where you have a different virus, like a totally different virus.
Yeah.
New characters are introduced into the like Umbrella mythos and origin story and whatnot. And then you just find out how crazy this family is as you explore both Antarctica and the castle.
Yes.
And I think like the bosses and how some of them are like the result of the craziness that this family is. I loved it all. I soaked this up. The parts I didn't know, I was just soaking up because it was awesome to read all the journals and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think I skipped one of those. Like, normally in some games like this, like, you kind of get tired of that stuff. But no, I agree. Like, I'm always like, what was this? And it always gives you hints, too, right? Like,
right. Well, you
have
to
read the journal and you're like, oh, well, this thing's about to murder me. Which that's another piece that they do well in this. I want to come back to Alexia specifically when we kind of get introduced to her eventually, because that was a moment that made me laugh. But with this game it's very subtle, but there's a thing I noticed where like, and this is partially because I kind of was like curious, does this happen? And then I confirmed it, reading about it after the fact. But there's little situational or environmental interactions you get into with certain enemies or creatures that if you interact or don't interact, or if you do something or don't do something, it changes the outcome of the game, right? Like, I know one of them happens with some spiders in the back half of the game where like I forget what it is now, but if you leave them exposed to gas for too long, one of them gets bigger, something like that.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know the little things like this.
There's also like the worm that you eventually fight as Chris.
Yes.
You can kill it earlier as Claire, but I actually didn't confirm. Do you know if you kill it as Claire, if it still comes back?
I believe it comes back. That's why it's always suggested in walkthroughs just to leave it.
Skip it, yeah. I thought it would, but yeah.
I'm not sure if you get a drop or something as Claire from it, but I think at the end of the day, it's not worth it.
Yeah, I agree. But that stuff, it's very subtle, and I really only like looked into the spider one. There's another one with like the worms in the lab earlier on it. Not the worms, but the this one's kind of like wrote right into the story. It's not so much the player's choice, but there's that spot where you kind of get to, I think it's the lab where you do the puzzle where you zoom in on the number in the corner.
Yeah.
There's something that breaks out of there that you end up coming back across, like little things like that are kind of always happening. And again, part of that like deeper, we're testing things, we're injecting things, we're seeing what we can do and create and destroy all at the same time. Which brings us back to Alexia. I know I'm jumping around story-wise, but that was one of my favorite moments of just sort of like, oh, we thought she never existed, or she was dead, or right, like that someone was there because you have the videos that play, those creepy videos of those two.
You want to do storytelling? Just keep playing that same video 5 times.
Same
Got
video.
it.
That's it. So you know that she was at least a person at some point, right? Like it couldn't have always been Alfred. But then the next half, like, that scene, it's kind of a beautiful scene, but it's also like it's a little absurd of just her like, where you been? Oh, just fully nude hanging out in Antarctica. What about you? Like,
yeah.
That one cracked me up. But let's back up. We haven't talked at all about Steve, who is one of my favorite characters in the first half of the game. Don't like him so much in the second half of the game. But I tried to share a clip with you, but it kept failing to share from the Xbox app because it was just too big, like the 30-second recording. My favorite scene in the entire game, I think, is it's early-ish on. You're walking through like the sewer area with Steve, and you're sort of, it's right before you run into where Steve's dad was locked
okay.
up, right? You meet, yeah. Right before then, like, Steve just starts to hint around, I guess, his life or people. Then Claire just says, like, how did you get here? Who did you come here with? And it's like a little stilted, and he just kind of stops, and he's just like, I don't want to talk about it, all right? And just starts shooting his guns into the, like, it's the perfect reaction. It's amazing. It was so good. I love that a lot. I clipped that. Even his reaction to his dad, like when you meet him as well. Like
he closes his eyes and the fucking just blasts away. Well, I have him labeled as a particularly awful character because he is the fucking worst.
Yeah,
that accent.
Yeah, he's very Canadian. It's one of those things where, like, I don't ever think too much about the fact that we definitely have Baltimore accents, but I have no room is what I'm trying to say. But when you hear a Canadian accent, it's just like, yep, got it. I know where you're from.
Yeah, I don't know. It's that, but then it's just, he's so, I don't know. He's pretty much like antagonizing you along the way. Like, you want to be allies, but he's doing everything. He could have made this whole game a lot easier if he just cooperates. Like, what? If he doesn't blast away while yelling no, either at his dad or just in general, you have enough ammo to complete this game. No problem at all. And then, two, like, the whole thing with the guns, not giving up the guns for automatic weapon, like...
So stupid. So stupid.
Also, that's a good scream when you're leaving the mansion and you triggers that event where you have to go get them.
Oh, yeah, when you get the steering wheel. No, I hate Steve, but he's one of my favorites. Which character do you think overall throughout the game had the most compelling motives?
Motives? It's tough because it seems crazy that Claire pretty much gets herself locked up to find her brother, who has connections to Leon, but Claire can talk to Leon. Also, shout out Leon, Chris. Briefly.
Yeah.
In this game. So that kind of is crazy. But I don't know. Alfred's motives make sense to me because of how crazy he is. Because he's trying to, like, they're going so extreme to bring back the family heritage. Because I believe they get double-crossed by Spencer with the Umbrella origin. So, like, he is just trying to bring his family name back. And then, like, I would also blame Claire. Like, if Claire comes on, escapes prison, and, like, military comes and invades, I would also blame Claire as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's I don't know. Again, it works because he's so crazy. But, again, when you start to read the family history and the family, like, line and how, like, it's a success story that his father fails and is him trying to bring back up the family name despite their research getting crazier and crazier. I think it makes sense for him as a villain.
Yeah, I think he worked. I agree. Like, by the end of it, I didn't necessarily, it's not what I would have done, but I don't disagree with him, right? I understand his perspective. Sometimes I think that's, to your point, it's what makes a strong, compelling villain in a game, because sometimes it's just like, oh, he's a bad guy, so don't let him get away with bad guy stuff. Did you have a favorite scene besides the sewer gun that I mentioned?
The sewer gun was good. I can't. I'm struggling to think of one off the top of my head. I did appreciate how dude just got spit up by worm and wasn't instantly dead.
Yeah,
was able to give you later if you did proper thing first half of game. But no, it's probably, for as much as I did like the character, it's probably some Steve cutscene that I'm not thinking of right now.
Yeah, he was just the constant kind of incidental comedic relief of the game. What was the best puzzle in the game?
I like the family tree one.
With the portraits?
Mm-hmm.
Damn, dude. Yeah, I was going to say the same exact one. Yes, I agree.
The only thing I hated was navigating back and forth into the diary, like with like 5 menu clicks. Like it wasn't instant, like I could bring up a note.
Yeah.
But no, I'm like sitting there and I'm like, all right. This is the gift he got. The more successful one, and I'm trying to make sense of it. I had a lot of fun with that puzzle. I spent more time in that room than I should have, but I had a lot of fun trying to figure that one out.
No, but that was a good time. And I think, like, for me, that beats the stuff of, we're going to talk about backtracking in a second. That beats the stuff of, like, just going to grab the seals and using them, right? Like, finding where all of those are. I did kind of like that when you take over as Chris, you're kind of undoing those seals to go put them in a different spot. Like that, I like the repurposing of things. That was neat. Again, like, I don't think we really got that with 1 or 2, did we? Like when you're jumping between Joe to Chris, or, like it was unique.
The only thing I can think that you reuse is like the wheel, yeah, like the wheels, like you reuse them, or like a lever you might have to pull out and reuse. But like as far as like the actual seals and like the weird shit you'll find in the police station, it usually has this one spot.
Yeah, that makes Which puzzle made you look it up? Which one were you stuck on?
So I'm just because I don't play them doesn't mean I don't know them. For some reason, whenever I got stuck and I would look up what to do, I just had to check an item. Don't know why I didn't think to check it right away once I got it, but like I would run senseless in a direction, and I'm like, all right, well, you know, I feel like I've covered most of the map here. What am I missing? And then yeah, it's fucking. I like the repurposing of this is in the back half of the game to both of these. I like the repurposing of 2 items. I like the fire extinguisher and how you can refill it and put out that fire, and then I think the Magnum is attached to that. And I like the I mean, you had to do it for story purposes, but I like how you had to change the axle or the shape of the wheel to make it fit the new things. Yeah.
Or was it square or octagonal or yeah?
Yeah, some hexagon. Yeah, one of those. Yeah. You changed some kind of shape.
Yeah, I remember like the thing I had happen to me more often than not, and this is the thing where like I like using a guide because it makes sure, especially in a game like this, like you don't want to get to a point where you realize like, I just wasted so much. Because there's like enemies do respawn. It's not immediate, but it's enough where like they happen. And I think that's where I would run into trouble is like they'd respawn. I'd use a couple bullets. Oh, I went all the way down that direction. I should, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so peeking at a guide becomes necessary for that. But the problem with that is like I'd peek and then read too far, and I'm like, okay, well there's going to be a jump scare in a second. Like it was things like that, and I know I had a couple puzzles spoiled like that for me where it was just like check this room and grab the something, and then go in here and I'm like, oh okay, all right.
I like the I forgot to mention this puzzle too. I like the weight, the paper weight, like the little dice with like the 2, I forget the hint. I think it was in Alfred's diary. It was like 2 opposites two opposites make a hole or something like that, and you had to rotate the dice, and like you were given the pattern from the panel, and you had to match it on the opposite side of the dice. You had to rotate it, and
yes.
I did like that puzzle as well.
The game does force a lot of backtracking, not just because, you know, you swap characters and you go back through, but even playing as Claire in the first half, you're kind of like, run up here, grab this thing, take it back, unlock this door to get this thing to go back to another area. It feels like to me more, and I've only played the remakes of the original, so they might have smoothed things out, but it feels like this game is a lot heavier on backtracking. Do you, A, think that's true? And B, do you think it kind of helped you to appreciate the game a little bit more? At least, like, did you feel more intimate with the geography of it?
Yeah, I would say it's no worse than probably 1, 2, or 3 originals, of course, with the backtracking, because I mean they all have it. To some regard, but as in terms of getting into like intimately knowing the map, like yes, obviously, you know, it's not like I can't identify every room right now. If I kind of replayed the game, I'll probably be opening some doors and being like, I don't remember what's behind here, but like I would know immediately, like from starting area, how to get to like the next military base, then how to get to the mansion, and then the mansion behind that, and kind of know my way around Antarctica. And thoughtfully, probably more thoughtfully this time around, go through the moth room so I don't get poisoned every fucking time I go in there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's certain games where like it can outstay its welcome, but others like, and this one, I think it did to an extent for me. There was like definitely some moments where it was a little like, all right, I kind of run all the way back here to all the way. But there were definitely moments where like I'm running through an area and I'm like just instinctively moving left or right to dodge zombies that I knew were right there. Stuff like that. What was your favorite and worst enemy type?
Oh, the fucking Nosferatus. No, yeah. The stretchy yellow boys.
Oh, the Bandersnatch.
Bandersnatch, sorry.
Yes.
Nosferatu's the boss. Yeah,
he's the boss. Yeah.
Those Bandersnatch fuckers. There was one in I think it's in Alfred's office in the mansion. It's the door to, like, there's that save point in the mansion and you go around, that door is locked, that's what you need the gold guns for.
Yes.
When you unlock it, there's a Bandersnatch in there. Every single fucking time I went in that door, I got hit with the...
I killed him.
I couldn't.
That was the one that I killed.
Oh, I refused to kill him. I just ate hits all the time.
No,
I didn't realize how back and forth I was going to be in there.
Yeah, he was like so in the way, and there's stuff you have to like interact with on the desk there, and so I was just like, he's got to go. I can't deal with him.
So yeah, that one, that enemy type for sure. The moths were annoying, but what, like, there actually is an endless supply of the blue herbs in that room right there, so like it's not terrible at the end of the day. But yeah, as far as what was the second part of that you said? Worst and what?
Best and worst.
I liked, so the hunters are hunters. That's nothing new to the franchise. I like how they were handled with the detection thing in this game.
Oh, because
where if you ran into the spotlights or whatever. Now, I mean, they were in the world themselves, but you could avoid battles with them if you avoided like Wesker's cameras.
Yes. Especially after the Bandersnatch from the first, like, by the time you see them, like, you're remembering what they were in previous games, and that you're about to, and like it didn't always have to be bad. Were there any moments that scared you while playing?
Yeah, like your typical like shattered glass, jump through stuff always has that loud, sharp noise to it. After the first time, especially if you die to die to something on the other side of the door or whatever. But the first time you enter like a newer area and you're either in pursuit or something, or like the story is heavily implying that major events behind the door, I did enjoy those moments of like the heartbeat and the super slow, like turn the handle, to super slow, like climb the ladder. Not to say, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Demon Souls, because Demon Souls has the fall gates that don't lead to bosses. I think they're just level loading disguises. So, like, in that game, just because you see a fall gate doesn't mean it's a boss. So you kind of, like, hold your breath as you go through it for the first time if you don't know. There was some of that going on with the heartbeat stuff that, again, I don't think it was scary, but it was creepy, or it was like, oh, shit, all right, here we go. What's on the other side?
Yeah, because I think overall this game does create a pretty good atmosphere for, like, the series, but also for horror, and I think exactly what you just described, that was my favorite part. The heartbeat moment, the slowdown moment, it forced you to like sit up and say like what's coming. And sometimes it wasn't always obvious. Sometimes it was just like a cutscene was coming. Mm-hmm. But other times it was like, okay, time to move.
And then I think this is a time to bring up one of my favorite aspects of this game.
Yeah.
The sound design, the music. Yes. I think this is some of the best music. I know the Resident Evil 2 save room is iconic, but I kind of like this one a lot, and I think it has, you know, Resident Evil 2 save music has some stiff competition from this game, in the different areas. But with that being said, I did like when they knew to turn off the music and just let it be. And that also made a room that may not have had anything in it 9 times out of 10. But, like, each time you step into that room, because it's always quiet in there, you haven't encountered anything yet, you're always, like, going into the next camera angle. And then shout out to when you enter a room and you hear the hunter stomps, like the because you're like, oh shit, here they come, here, oh god.
It's time. Did you like playing as Claire or Chris better?
I think whose weapons I like better at the end of the day. Probably, I don't know. I like Chris's sections because I like the remix to the levels. And there was less Steve.
Yeah.
But Chris, I would say Chris was probably my favorite one. I also like, but like, again, this is probably the time to mention it. Who you end up liking could have a major, it could depend on how screwed you put yourself over, going from character to character, because it happens a couple times and it's never announced, and whatever's in the box is shared, but if the other person has it, it's gone.
You don't. Yeah.
Which could lead to some incidental soft locks. I actually don't know if you could hard lock it if you tried. I think you had to really try. I can't remember like an item that would not make the switch, but you definitely have the potential to soft lock if you take all the good weapons with you for Claire, for Antarctica, and then the switch happens because you'll just have a handgun, like, and with no bullets and not much to deal with. Now, thankfully, that worm's pretty easy, but you know the rest of the, you know, military grounds, and the mansion, it's not easy.
No, not at all. So that actually gets to my point in the game where I did not finish the game because I'd screwed myself up so badly. And what I ended up doing was trying to just kind of brute force my way through. And there was a point where I was, every day, I'd sit down, 30 minutes, let's jump in and do this fight. Got nowhere. And then there was a point where I was like, I'm just going to sit It was like a Saturday morning. I sat for like an hour and just did nothing but it and just die.
Which
and
boss?
Like, all right, this is in the cargo hold. That's where I left off.
The hardest boss in the game.
So that's the thing that sucks about this too. I don't know if you looked up any videos on how to play it or if you
I had to because I couldn't beat him either. I had the ammo too.
I had plenty of ammo and I could not kill him. I consulted friend of the show, Ben Barris, to say, you like this game, right? Please explain. And he was like, dude, just do this, this, and this. Do you have this? You might have to reload a save. Did you try this? I tried all of that. He then found a video where this dude has a strategy where you can beat him without ammo. Did you see that one?
I know you can with the cargo shoot if you do it enough because it does injure him, but I don't know. Like, avoiding him was tight.
6 times with that.
I knew it was I thought it was 5. Yeah, okay. Yep, 6.
There's a pattern for where you run and how you run. And in the video, this dude's showing it, and I'm like, that's easy. I got this. And then in practice, I spent an hour one day, and I was like, okay, at this point, I can reload my save, I can do whatever, I can keep trying to brute force, but like, I was getting to that point where the game was starting to sour because that part was such a bad experience.
Yeah.
That I'm like, what is playing as Chris actually going to do for me, right? Like, obviously there's more, the other half of the game, but what else is left, like, that I need to see to talk about this competently on a podcast? And, you know, I watched the back half of it, but I didn't actually play it, but it was just, that was the point. And I think that was one moment where things got like, I don't know, but I also saw like, the one strategy I saw was to use the combustible arrows.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, just hit him with 24. I had 30 of them. I couldn't get like more than 10 shot off without him.
Yeah. I forgot what I ended up doing. I think I had enough healing. And I just ended up maximizing the first aid sprays and a bunch of ammo, like the bowgun arrows. I didn't have 24. I think I only had like 15 or 10. So I had to like swap that with grenade rounds or something. So I just ate hits. I was just like, I don't care about my health reserves. I feel like if I get through this, I'm golding. So yeah, I just ate through my health reserves. And it took twice. It wasn't the first time, but like, I felt like I was close on that run. So yeah, I just kind of stood in the corner, 8 hits, and just kept firing away, hoping he will go down. Yeah,
that was like my when I first got in there, I was on orange health, had no heals. And I was like, all right, it was the one time I remembered, like, I didn't really double check myself to make sure I didn't miss anything. And I was like, let me reload a save to a little bit earlier and just see. So I did it from like a little bit before. Turns out I missed a first aid spray somewhere where I was able to heal up. And then I did a new save, made it back to him. But then on the way back to him, I got hit by the worm like once. So it kind of threw me off a little bit. And then I was like, I ended up reloading that save again, doing that whole sequence again so I could get past the worm with no hits, conserve as much ammo for the first time you run into him in the like pathway, get up to the plane, do all the, but still it wouldn't work. So yeah. That said, it's still, I think, one of the best Resident Evil games, and I still really, really liked what I played. Do you think, and I'm especially curious for me having not played as Chris, do you feel like seeing both perspectives enhanced the story? Do you feel like it made it feel complete?
Yeah. Cause I mean, you ultimately finished the game as Chris, and I think that's all very important that you finish as Chris for Code Veronica X specifically, which is what we ended up landing on playing. Because that, like, again, this is that leaping off point for the crazy fucking lore, and Wesker and Chris is pretty much born out of this game. And the setup for 5 is all stemming from this.
Yeah, because you otherwise wouldn't have that, right? Like if you just played the numerical canonical games.
Yeah, that's why, like, this is, like, I know, like, people, it doesn't have a number on it, but, like, this is this is more important than 3, in my opinion, in terms of story, because you really don't see Jill too much after 3.
No,
she appears in 5, but
I know she shows up in 5, but other than that, you got to play Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Oh,
well, yeah, that too. Yeah, yeah, and that's what I'm curious. Like, I hope they go back to Jill in 9 in some capacity, but
no, but yeah, seeing both sides was interesting. I'm just happy they remixed the areas enough where there was new in both Antarctica and yeah. Did you see the added gameplay segment for Chris if you with the Nosferatu boss battle?
Which part?
So when you're doing the Nosferatu boss battle, if you get hit enough with that like spray, that mist spray he has, it will poison you. But the poison won't cure you. The blue herbs won't cure your poison. It unlocks, or I don't know if you want to call it unlocks, or it makes it required that you go find the serum for Claire before she moves. So yeah, like when you rescue her, it will like, it wanted to either show this cutscene of her like, oh, I'm weak, and then she's like, I'm poisoned, and that's when it's like, I gotta go find serum. Or it would just skip that, and then you like at the sequence, I think with her jump to gameplay again happens. I
don't know if I saw that in the video I watched to see that back half.
I know cool. It's speedrun death to get poison in that run. So if you watch any kind of like quick playthrough, I know they avoided it.
Interesting. No, I wanted to see like I didn't watch a speed run for this one. I wanted to see like a full thing so I could get the weight of it. But I don't remember that part of it standing out. I guess anything that we didn't cover yet that you had in your notes or thoughts around the game?
I'd be remiss not to talk. I mean, I won't get into detail of it, but the ending of this game, from the time you defeat Alexia to... I think the bigger spoiler is how fucking cool that sequence is between Chris and Wesker. I was loving it. I was eating it up.
The full like Street Fighter sequence?
Yeah, just eating it. I was in love with it. I mean, everything with the end game with Alexia and all that stuff. Alexia also fucking hard. Those fucking little things jumping on you constantly are the biggest pain in the ass. But no, I had enough those bowgun rounds, the explosive ones. I dealt with it pretty easily. But yeah, dude, I was just sitting there, I was in love with the whole final segment. It made any pain of like gameplay or whatever just go away. It was awesome.
Yeah, that makes it worthwhile, especially with how weird and stupid the series goes and gets after that. And to your point, like especially with Chris and Wesker in 5, I guess I don't know much about 6. I know we've talked about 6 on the show before, but I don't really know Yeah.
It's a wild one for sure.
Yeah. Should Capcom remake Code Veronica?
I think so, just because again, if you're going everything's indicating that a 5 remake will happen. 5 doesn't, like, Code Veronica is kind of, I would say is kind of needed for 5 to make complete, utter sense. Now, again, these games are already off the rocker. It doesn't need to make complete sense, but, like, for lore accuracy, for those that care, you kind of need the events of Code Veronica.
No, there's a lot of it, because, like, in the end of Village, you get a huge, like, lore dump there as well about, like, some other older ties to Umbrella and how that was all kicked off and whatnot. And yeah, I think pick that thread up, and I like a remake, but I also think like, look, 4 was great. 4 I can't remember now. We'll find out in a few minutes when we pull up the list if 4 is still in our top 10. If it's not, we at least put it there at some point, the remake. But I know when 4 remake was coming out, I definitely hit a point where I was like, I think I'm good on remakes. And I fear that a straight remake of Code Veronica, I mean, I'm saying this now, but if they just threw it in the RE engine and put it out, I'm going to buy it and play it and love it. But I also feel like this is a good opportunity to do, like, back to the nonsense I was talking about at the top of the show where, like, I don't know that you combine Zero and Code Veronica, but maybe do you go Final Fantasy VII with it and you turn, like, Code Veronica and 5 into its own 3-part saga that's just called, like, Resident Evil X? Is that what 10 is? Do they make 9 and continue where they left off from 8, but then 10 is a Code Veronica? I don't know.
That'd be weird if they did that. I'm for it, but yeah, I just think it makes too much sense just to do the straight remake. And then I think 2 things are going to happen with this franchise. I think one, we're just about ready for the next reboot, which I think it sounds like we're gonna get with 9. And the remakes, I think the remakes are gonna stay as traditional remakes. Like I think you're gonna get Code Veronica again because I think you need it. If you get 0, fine, great. I think you're gonna get 5. I think what's gonna get crazy is they're gonna connect the, like, new lore that they've, not that it's gone too far away. I think they're gonna connect the new lore or that new remake lore to the 7 and 8 lore in a much better way in 6. And 6, I feel like that remake is going to be just like a new game in a way. Resident Evil Multiverses.
Because 6 is the one that's got Wesker's kids and everything else, right?
Yeah, and that's the one that has the 4 campaigns.
See, I was going to say, and that's the one with 3 campaigns, right? No, 4.
4, yeah, because Ada's is unlockable. Yeah, and they all cross paths, like, and I love it because there is a specific, like, timeline order you can play through with chapters and when to stop and go to the next person's. It's so weird. Yeah. But yeah, no, I think that's what ends up happening in this franchise. It's remakes until we get to 6, 9 proper, and then I feel like maybe 10 or 6 or something. I don't want to say Resident Evil 10 just ends up being Resident Evil 6 remake, but I think it's going to be like a big event to tie it all together. Or 6 ends up being Reverse finally.
Hey, we might get there. We might get there after all. Matt, I'm pulling up the list. Listeners, you can follow along at thefreecheese.com/thelist, where we rank every game we've discussed. Resident Evil 4 currently out of the top 10. It got pushed down by South Park, The Fractured But Whole. If you want to hear that Resident Evil 4 remake episode, we did that 526. We did the first Resident Evil 4 in 498. And we did Resident Evil Gaiden back on 497. Go check those out if you're looking for more evil of the Resident variety. While we think about numbers, Matt, I'm curious, would you work for Umbrella?
No. I don't need to go through a police station and put in 2 emblems so I can go down a sewer to get to my workstation.
What if the benefits are really good?
Again, I don't need to go into a police station, put 2 emblems into a statue that reveals a secret sewer to then walk along the sewer line to the lab office where I would then have to proceed to my office.
Fair enough.
Knowing that 3 weeks ago the sister office was just destroyed in a in a terrible fucking disaster.
So maybe,
up north in the mountains.
But the early days of the company.
I think I would find that all those people were fucking crazy.
Yeah. Well, we wish Umbrella the best of luck in their recruitment efforts moving forward. And I wish us the best of luck trying to rank this, because I don't know where I land on it. I don't have a ton of bad to say about the game. Yes, it's difficult, but if you play with those expectations, you're patient, you take notes, you follow a guide, it's a very, very playable game. There's nothing that's like, besides, I mean, the cargo fight is tough. But from what I saw the back half, I don't think there's any, the final fight seems tough too.
Final fight stuff. But you get, I mean, if you play it right, I think you have more than enough ammo. But yeah, it's
But even
tough.
like the first time you have to shoot Alexia does not seem, that seems pretty easy from what I saw.
Yeah, just don't get closer.
Yeah, right.
I think some of the fights you can just run from. I don't know what you saw in your playthrough, but like the electric dude, did just run into the water and grab the item and leave, or did they actually kill the guy?
I don't remember now.
Yeah, you can just straight up just grab the item. I think same thing with the spider. I think you can just grab the item and just book it. Now you come back to the
I do
area.
remember seeing a spider fight.
Yeah, if you I'm pretty sure you can do that with the spider fight. I think one of the only bosses you kind of have to fight in Chrysis early on is that worm, because I don't think you get the elevator to activate without killing the worm.
Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, barring, I mean, a couple of things here and there, like, I think it's great. I think it's the best that these classic Resident Evils could do. I'm up there ranking wise. I just don't know how high. Like, is this?
Yeah, I mean, it's the classic. It's the classic structure, but I still think like we moved on from the classic structure for a reason.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You kind of start to look at the direct comparisons on this list, and like Parasite Eve, I think that game not being voice acted really kills it compared to everything else.
Ooh, yeah, good call.
In this game, I think Steve is incredibly annoying because of his voice acting. I think Alfred is equally as awesome because of his voice acting.
It's a game of contrast, if nothing else.
Yeah, I like Parasite Eve's combat better, but I think at the end of the day I'm going to say I like Parasite Eve better, but I think this is the better game of the two.
I don't hate that.
I don't know how much further I climb though. Like I would go up into the Max Payne-ish area. I just don't know how far up after that. And I already see you grimacing.
No, it wasn't a grimace. That was a like, I could see it. Do we go above Max Payne or below Max Payne?
I like Max Payne, but I think this is a better probably game than Max Payne, despite my rating of it. I think I just gave Max Payne the rating because that game's awesome. Like,
yeah.
Also, equally good voice acting in various regards.
Yeah. Yeah, let me stop. This, I think you found a sweet spot. I was initially looking like above Def Jam, below Guardian Legend, which is a bit lower than we have it now. I don't know if that's too low. Because I like Parasite Eve a lot. I don't know.
Yeah, I do too.
And I like Ape Escape a lot. I don't know. Like, I feel like.
Well, then do we drop it?
I don't know.
I do have some difficulty going past Parasite Eve. Just
yeah, if that
personally
doesn't feel good, then let's keep falling. I think I like this. I like Ape Escape better.
Yeah, we fall. I think we fall to the territory you just said.
Def Jam.
I would probably put this above Guardian Legend, but somewhere in there. I'm not going to fight too much.
I'm good with Above Guardian. You want to go Above Guardian, below Year Walk?
Yeah.
Sold. To Resident Evil, Code Veronica X. Congratulations, Capcom. You got another game on the list. And Matt, we've only got one more game, kind of, for the list. Next week is the last new game that we've played this year that we're adding to the list. We're going to close out October with Uninvited for the Macintosh. However, it's not the last game we're ranking, because we still have all 4 games from our streams to rank. We'll do that at the beginning of November. We have all 4 of our Wii Sports Killers to do some postmortems on, discuss their importance, their legacies, etc., and our year spent with them. And then we will, of course, rank those to close out November. And then we've got Ring Fit Part 2. We got some stuff coming up. Stay tuned to thefreecheese.com. Tell a friend about us. Write a letter to us. You can do that for free. $0. We won't charge anything. The podcast at thefreecheese.com. Until next week. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, listener, for listening. Bye.